Hello and good morning to the United States, good afternoon to somewhere else, and good evening to Germany. This is the CRMKonvos show, and today we have a very special surprise guest. And she will introduce herself. Welcome, Birge, and it is a pleasure to have you with us aside of our scheduled guest, Guido. And so we are again a team of four, where our dear friend Thomas is still riding the waves and keeps his customer experience to a sailing experience on the Adriatic Sea or is in the transfer. Birge.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. I'm Bilge and I live in Germany, Cologne. I work for Qualtrics, which is the experience management company. And I'm looking into customers and helping customers and brands to leverage their customer centricity programs, not only through customer experience, but also employee experience, product experience, and brand experience. So we support a lot of brands worldwide and have fantastic insights how they use our technology to create these insights. And I'm happy to share some of those here. And thank you, Guido, for the conference last week. That was a fabulous overview on the human experience side.
Guido, some words about you.
Thank you, Birge. Thank you, Ralph. Thank you, Marshall. It's nice to be here. I'm very enjoy talking to you second time. Birge mentioned the HEX. The HEX is means human experience and beyond. HEX Plus. Yeah, and this is a conference we conducted the second time in Berlin 1-2 weeks ago, and it was all about how can we create and how will the human experience of the future will look when we think about all the changes we experience today. Artificial intelligence coming into the game more and more. What does it mean to be human and have a human experience in the future? So if you like, I can also talk about this stuff. But we actually writing down all the knowledge we gathered there, and we'll create some narratives for the human experience of the future. Of course, we will share it with the community.
Broad and interesting topic.
Yeah, this is the topic of my heart. So I'm fully in this stuff. For me, it is not important, honestly, if a human is a customer, if a human is an employee. For me, a human is a human, and so this is why we talk. Actually, we talk about organization experience as a combination of customer and employee. But in the end, it's about human doing something for human.
Right.
And it's very fascinating.
For those who don't know me yet, I'm a psychologist from Bonn, Germany, and my favorite topic is human, as I told you, and I developed a few years ago the human needs system, which is somehow like Maslow's pyramid of needs, but broader, deeper, and without a pyramid. And this is Maslow 3.0. If you
77 human needs.
77 human needs. Right.
Comprehensive, very interesting, very insightful. I remember when you showed that to us for the first time, I was wowed.
Yeah, cool. Thank you very much, Marshall. And of course, we used the 77 human needs to create the approach of organization experience. And whenever we analyze experience, we need to refer on human needs. And if you choose the 77 human needs or Maslow or whoever, which system you like, but it is important that you focus on human needs, because otherwise you will not understand how experience works and what people feel.
And this comes nicely together, and I apologize if there are some moments of outtakes, because the hotel internet has a tendency to be like my friends from German Telekom in my hometown in Rosbach. They like to have a pendulum wave like a roller coaster. So from time to time, it might take a little longer to get the signal through. So it's not to be not polite that we might get interfered by this delay, a latency. It's just called, if I'm not mistaken, and we will manage. Coming back, the background of Cologne, the Colonius and the Cologne Cathedral do have a very, very actual, up-to-date topic. I'm today on the Zoholics, and I will be this week on the CRM Summit from Sugar. And it is fascinating that we have what you could call, the German word is Klammer, and I don't know, it's like the umbrella above. And whatever here is talked is AI, employee experience, customer experience, and how to get things together. And so we are exactly with the organizational experience in the middle of everything what's happening. And this makes it so interesting that there is some news, such as we introduced you, Guido, with his studies, and we covered the overall background and what is behind it and the 77 human needs. But never we touch the deeper results the core study made, nor did we discuss and show the perspective that after research and that you found partners like Detecon to do the implementation in projects that you have with Qualtrics, the candidate who is keeping those things which can be measured in a system. And that makes the wheel round. And I'm so excited to share some of the findings from Guido's end and some of the perspective we have to get some of these findings in a system, as we know that a very specifically German organizations are driven by facts, figures, data, and findings. Elsewise, what you cannot measure, you are not good. And that is disturbing for me because sometimes emotion is driving me forward and not the figures. But something in between is important to have. And now we are going forward this direction. Guido, will you share probably some of the results, and Birge then about the combination, how you found, let's say, the organizational get together with Detecon. Unfortunately, Isabel is not to participate, but we will get an opportunity to invite her for one of the next call, the CRMKonvos. So we have the three of you, and then with Thomas, then we have a merry round of 6. Now, Guido.
Okay, then I will try to do this right, and I hope that you can see some hands on the screen. Can you see it?
Not
I
yet.
will add it to
Here
the
we go.
stage. And now, here we go.
Yeah. So let me first give you a short overview about the idea of organization experience and the studies we did, and then I will add to it some results from 2 different researchers, and then I want to introduce you to what Ralph called something in the middle, because the Detecon colleagues developed from our organization experience approach, first approach to make it measurable, but it's a more qualitative way to do it. It's like, yeah, we will see. And Birge finally will add the findings which Qualtrics have. And so we hopefully can give you what you challenged us to do, give us numbers, figures, facts, and so on. But of course, without content, numbers are meaningless. So that's why I want to start with talking about our idea of organization experience. And everything starts with a picture we had in our mind that 2 years ago when somehow it was somehow close to everyone that there must be a relationship between customer and organization experience, but maybe there's not. There was a kind of discussion, because you can imagine if you had on a Titanic, for instance, on the Titanic ship, it's not important for the passenger what happens below and how the people work there. It's possible to have this opinion, or I don't want to bash a company here, but it is possible that people can deliver good quality and have not the best working conditions. That's imaginable. Let's say it that way. On the other hand, we have experience on our own, and this concert, live music experience is something that hopefully everyone had in his life, that you feel there's a kind of magic, some kind of energy which comes from the stage to the audience and goes backwards, and you see the emotions, how it works, and there must be kind of magical bond between customer and employee experience. That was our hypothesis. And if there is this magical bond, maybe we can somehow make it a little bit more touchable and tangible and understandable if we could find out what the character of this bond is. And we run a study in 2 steps. The first step was we did some interviews with experts in customer and employee experience to find out what they think about what different drivers are between customer and employee experience, and are there some or not. And after this, we created a questionnaire and sent it out to experts and normal people, because imagine if you are an employee experience expert and you work in HR, then you focused on your HR topics, but on the other hand, of course, you are a customer in many ways. Of course, you have experience as a customer too. And so every of our experts was a kind of non-expert in the other field, CX or X, as a customer experience or employee experience. But of course, they had their experiences, and we added some people which are non-HR experts and customer experience experts. And the funny thing is, you can prove this statistically with SPSS, whatever. The answers did not differ. So if you took this as a factor, be an expert or not, was not important. So there were no differences in means or variances or whatever. So it was something that surprised me a little bit. But on the other hand, we can argue that the topic of experience is somehow something that everyone understands and can answer from its own experience. When we ask people, what do you think? Is there something like a common experience between customers and employees? 84% said yes, there must be something. This was, in the beginning, it was important for us to have this simple facts here. Then we asked, okay, what do you think? Does the employee experience influence the customer experience? 93% say yes. Sounds trivial, but if you ask, for instance, people in HR, does your work really influences the customer experience? They will look at you and say, what do you mean with customer? And when I talk to people from HR departments and I ask them, who is your customer? They always find their customers within the company.
Right.
And no one thinks about the customer who is paying them. And so I was a little bit surprised that 93% said yes, there is one. And on the other hand, if you ask, does the customer experience have an impact on the employee experience? A little bit lower, 76%. But yeah, at least 3 or 4 people said yes, there is an influence. Because it's a little bit more complicated, because, and it's not so easy. I think it is not trivial to have a feedback loop between the customer experience and the employee experience for every employee. This is one of the tasks, one of the challenges we are facing. I think all of you know this quote from Simon Sinek, but I included it here because it explains a little bit what does it mean to understand people. It's easy to say understand people. 100% of customers are people, 100% of employees are people, and there are a lot of more stakeholders who are people. If you don't understand people, you don't understand business. I love this because it connects people to business, and we talk about people when we talk about business. That's also my opinion. But what does it mean, understand people? So, and this is why the 77 human needs approach plays an important role in this whole experience understanding, because we use this system to understand what it means to be human. Because sometimes I do an exercise with the people when we do run workshops or something, and it means it is named "You are what you need." This sounds a little bit tough. You are what you need, but if you think about it, our needs steer our behavior. Our needs steer our emotions, if our needs are fulfilled or not. And when we think, okay, who we are, then is what we do and what we feel is a big part of what we are and who we are. So I think it's not so wrong to say you are what you need. So if you understand people means understand people's needs and how to fulfill them. So this is what I already told you about the methodology, how we run the study, and 21 people in the qualitative part and 135 in quantitative. And here on the right side you see the stuff. And was a lot of people were involved in this project. So from a content perspective, the most important outcome was that we found 6 dimensions to describe what we call the organization experience. And important here is to understand that these dimensions are chosen because they give you the opportunity to influence the employee and the customer experience, both of them. And the first experience dimension, I want to introduce it to you a little bit more in a few minutes. We call the degrees of freedom. I think it's easy to understand what this means. So if you have your act according to a fixed process methodology from an employee perspective, or if there's you have some degrees of freedom to decide what is the best in your opinion to make the customer happy. And on the other side, from a customer perspective, it means can I choose between channels, ways of getting into contact, ways of solving a problem, whatever, or ways to buy something? And do I also have degrees of freedom while interacting with a company or services or products of this company? Second dimension is competence. It's easy to understand from an employee perspective, because if people are competent in what they do, then competence is a human need, by the way. We love to do what we are competent in, what we can do. If you ask drivers why they don't stop driving with their own private car, in Germany it's a big topic, they will tell you, I'm driving because I can. I'm a good driver. Yeah. So competence is a need which we want to fulfill. We love to be in our comfort zone and feel competent. On the other hand, as a customer perspective, you want a competent employee, especially if you're at the point of sales or service, competent people which create great products, which works. And on the other hand, you want also to be competent, because if you're in a situation as a customer that you don't understand what happened, you don't understand the product or the service, or you don't know what to do, that's very bad. You feel bad and you lose control, and you will probably leave this brand and the product, service, whatever. And third dimension, technical environment. Ask the IT guys how they influence the customer experience. They will also look at you and say, what? But of course it is important, because the technical environment, the stuff that people work with, of course, determines somehow their performance and what is possible to create with this. But not to forget, it's also a very important aspect of culture in a company. If you give your employees a very cheap mobile phone, they will think, okay, this is what the company thinks about me and what I'm worth. So I will give you the company back what she thinks about me. And if you don't feel appreciated, then of course your performance will be this according to
you get
your
what
perception.
you pay for.
Yes. And it's sometimes it's so easy. Give employees a good phone or a bad phone, and you will see how their behavior will change. At least in Germany. I don't know how it is in the US, but in Germany it's. Values and mindset, of course. I just speed up a little bit because I hope it's somehow understandable. Then the brand is something what connects employees and customers both, and sometimes we have a kind of disconnect between the brand perception of the employees and the brand perception of the customers, and because it is the power is much higher than if you can create a brand which is so authentic that the people from both sides can totally connect with it. Feedback tools and co-creation methods. This is what I meant with it's not so easy. The stage audience situation is not so easy to create in a company when you have different touch points and a lot of people who are in the back office, and but this is one of the biggest and most important challenges. I'm very sure that it's important that we improve here. A few words, closer words to the degrees of freedom. The definition of this dimension is employees and customers have a variety of options for achieving an outstanding experience. So here's one of the 77 human needs. Freedom is one of this, and okay, I'm doing a little bit advertisement for the needs. Okay, so this is how we described it. So, and when we create degrees of freedom, the organization enables itself to solve problems of customers and employees, of both of them, more quickly, and the entire organization achieves greater feelings of success. So, as I told you, that experience and needs are totally related to emotions. It makes sense to think about how does it feel to have degrees of freedom, and what does it mean? And I will show you later. First, I want to give you some other stuff, but just it's a very interesting part to think about what really happens to us if we have degrees of freedom. I think the example, most of you know this example from Ritz-Carlton, yes, where every employee, it doesn't matter if which job has $2,000 to solve a customer issue. So, and don't need to ask the boss for it.
It's a hotel chain, right?
Yeah, it's a hotel chain, Ritz-Carlton.
Yeah.
It's a famous one. I don't know how old it is. It's a few years old, and of course this $2,000 and they are calculated because the guys had calculated the lifetime customer value, and that okay, what do we lose if a customer is not satisfied and will not book us again?
Yeah,
and so. Even the guy at the door or the woman who's making the beds or whatever, or everyone have $2,000 to solve an issue instantly without asking anyone. This is what we mean with degree of freedom. And what happens to such an employee? If you have this opinion, you are proud because your organization trusts you. That you feel competent and strong. This is a very interesting emotion, and if you work with people who feel strong and self-esteem, they will do their work in a different way. And I like this example, even if it's a little bit old, but it's still good.
It's a terrific example. It emphasizes it reminds us that when you only have a hammer, every problem looks like a nail.
Yeah.
When you have freedom, you have a full toolbox.
Yeah.
I would also like to add to that, because a good example is AWS from Amazon, right? The way AWS was created was they created a framework where the managers couldn't say no. So they had to say yes to the ideas, and yes, but question the ideas. And within this degree of freedom, the employees created the AWS services, which is now a huge, huge part of the Amazon business. So I totally agree with you. The ability to give people a platform to really raise their ideas. Ideas, I think, are the most interesting piece of it, that you feel confident enough that you can recommend something. This type of empowerment is exactly what we need, and which really creates great results, as we see.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
empowerment is exactly the buzzword. Yes. People feel appreciated, empowered, and enabled.
Yeah, because what is behind this is the trust. One of the most important thing. My organization trusts me. That makes me strong and proud. So, yeah, I just want to show some numbers from the survey, which I mentioned with 135 people. First one is a little bit easy, but it shows us that the results that we got were somehow meaningful. I love to have some trivial results in the beginning to say, okay, somehow the people have answered meaningful. So we asked them about their perceived maturity in customer experience and employee experience of their companies, and we used the Qualtrics approach by this. Even we did not know Bill at this time, but it is published. So, and I shortened it up into only one question, and so make it a little bit more effective. But this measurement also worked very well. And what we see here is not so surprising that overall the customer experience maturity with 40% on the highest, and this, it's 4 here for 4 or 5, is higher than the employee experience maturity, which makes totally sense because customer experience has an advantage of 10 to 15 years, I would say, in the development of this, of this whole experience, thinking methods and tools and culture. So fine. Let's. I picked 2 results from a lot of stuff which we got, which I found very interesting. The first one here is this. They are not so trivial. We need to think. But that's why we are here for, right? The experience feedback gap, I call it that way, is if we compare some questions from the results here. The first one is customers can give feedback about their experience. This is people should rate should rank how good it is fulfilled, in their company. 3.7 of 5, that's very good. Employees can give feedback about their experience. Oh, the same. Yes, we measure a lot. Qualtrics is big in this. So customer can give feedback about the experience, employees can give about it. Yeah, great. Happens. But the interesting thing is what happens to the results. If you ask all employees have knowledge about the experience of the customers, whoops, this is going down. And 3.1 is close to the middle of the scale. So that's not very good. Customers know how a company treats its employees, the same, 3.1. So we somehow measure something, but we measure experience, hopefully. But then there's something, we don't use the results properly, I would say. So this is the first thing. There's somehow a task behind this. And this chart is what I love. Yeah, I love the most. It takes some time to explain it, but I hope you will like it too. What we did here was we compared companies which rate themselves as give themselves a high customer experience maturity, and compared them to others, to the rest. And we use the 6 leaders here. So these are the blue. So, and the 6 followers are the red companies. So, and interestingly, what we see here are differences in answers. So both of them, of course, answered the same questions. And whenever a field is blue, then that means that it is higher rated by customer experience leaders. If it is red, that means it's higher rated by customer experience followers. And so now there's something interesting in it. If we ask, employees can give feedback about their experience. And how important is this for you? Yeah, this was the point. Employees can give feedback about the experience. This is much more higher rated by customer experience leaders. And this is interesting because if you look at this 5 points here with the blue scale. All questions deal with employees somehow. And all these questions are higher rated by customer experience leaders. So if you're leading in customer experience, then you focus more and more on the employees. Employees can give feedback about the experience, very important for them. Employees and customers can interact directly, important to them. Employees and customers feel they belong to the company. This is about brand and culture. All departments work together to create a great customer experience. All departments, also employee stuff. All actions in the company are focused on employee experience improvement. This is quite interesting. Let's have a look at this both two last questions here. All actions in the company are focused on employee experience improvement. More important for customer experience leaders. All actions in the company are focused on customer experience improvement is more important for CX followers. Somehow, yeah, after thinking a little bit, it makes sense. If you are a follower in CX, you need to improve in the field of CX first. But the people who are already good in customer experience, they shift their attention from customer experience to employee experience. And this is a very interesting finding, I would say. So, and this is a field of action because the customer experience maturity is growing over the last years, has grown. So let me give you some other numbers, not from this study, but from another one, which we did with Deutsche Telekom. It's from 2019, but it's still completely valid. The first thing, when we talk about experience, what I want to mention here is that very often when we talk about experience, we talk in practice about experience management. If you ask people, how do you define experience? Customer or employee experience, doesn't matter. Most of the people will answer something like, experience is the sum of all interactions between a customer and a company over all touch points. Or employee and company over all touch points. Mm-hmm. There's something good in it because we talk about all touch points, we talk about all the interactions. That's fine. But unfortunately, it does not explain to us what experience is. And it is like explained smelling to me, and you would say smelling is everywhere and everywhere I smell. So when we try to understand experience, we need to be aware that it happens in our brain, in every individual brain of all of us. Mm. And when we talk about a work context, we permanently and unconsciously compare our needs with the options to satisfy them. And if we are in a consumer context, it's the same. We permanently and unconsciously compare what we get with what we need. That's why needs are so important if we talk about experience. And from this comparison result emotions, thoughts, and action. Emotions very important, actions very important, thoughts sometimes important. For instance, if we ask them, then they need to think. But normally you act without thinking all the time. Just if something smells bad, then you leave or you open the window or whatever. Okay. And you don't think about it.
Your brain is lazy. It's always working in automatic mode.
Yes, right. 99% of the time it's doing that. So a question of capacity, of course. And just some insights from, we asked over 400 people about their employee experience in the study. And we also asked it about their perceived business results. We could not measure it objectively. I don't know if a company is able to do this in Germany. It's not possible to do. To create a measurement between people and their performance is not possible. So we need to ask them what they perceive and how they perceive the quality of their work. But they are able to answer this. And we get some variance. This is important to get some results. So what we found is, and I will explain you what we mean with open trustful culture. I will show you this. Is that when we ask people about the working culture in which they are working, and it is maybe I can can just jump a little bit forward. Yeah, here it is. So do not leave you in the darkness here. These were the questions we asked. And we have some tiers here, which are the first most important tier. There's a correlation. So how much the culture is influenced by the answer of the item here, of the question here. And our company information is shared openly. That's the most important item. We deal frankly with mistakes. So an open, maybe you can say it's psychological safety. It's very close to this. Hierarchies do not matter to us. We regularly give each other open feedback. We share unfinished work in progress. This is all about being open, share information, do not work for saving a status, but work with the whole organization to create the best results. Then, of course, it's important how you experience your manager. It's a good coach, or on the other hand, this is negative here. My manager wants to have full control over everything and be honest. Of course, you can talk about agility and rename all your teams into squads and whatever, and your KPIs into OKRs. But if you don't change this command control stuff into a trustful and supporting management, this all is worth nothing. And this is what we very, very often find. So of course you can do some cosmetics, but if you do not change the culture, yeah, that's all for nothing. It doesn't mean anything. Okay, so
Right.
this is to understand what we mean with an open culture. And what we found was that when we ask simple questions, what everyone is asking, so about employee satisfaction or recommendation, and if we do a simple, very stupid statistic, a median split, which is statistically not very strong method, so just split the median and you have this Gauss curve, and because the variance is not very high, the difference in the variance is not very high. But if you do this and just separate the people who perceive working in a good culture and perceive working in a not so good culture, and you find the difference in employee satisfaction over 70%. 70%. Imagine how much money you need to invest to improve their employee satisfaction by 70%. So, and this was something which was very often we find discussion. So how can we make our teams perform better? How can we make our employees to perform better? And the interesting thing is performance is a human need. You don't need to push people to perform because they want to perform. Every little kid wants to be the highest tower and wants to be the fastest runner, whatever. Everyone wants to be this. The question is, do we have the circumstances that allow people to perform? Or is it the case that if you are younger and you perform good, your boss is holding you down because you are dangerous for status? Or you all the time you need to break rules if you want to create an innovation, and the rules are very strong and the culture is very strong. The culture is more, let's stay as we are because we want to be safe. And there are a lot of different things which hinder people to show you their best performance. And honestly, I used this study. It was very important for me. I wanted to see if it's possible to measure employee experience by measuring the fulfillment of human needs. This was my inner motivation to run the study, because when I say that it's important for experience to understand the needs, then I need to make it measurable. Because I'm also a number guy. I like it. Yes.
Okay, I would like to encourage you to take it forward to the point that we can start a bit in the Human Experience Plus conference findings, that we drive it a bit into why it is so useful to have it in a system, and, for instance, make it easy for the next line of people to get answers easily done into a system, and then make findings, comparisons, as we have 20 minutes left, as my friend Marshall just pointed out.
Yeah, thank you very much for reminding me. I can talk about this for hours.
I know that you are enthusiastic, You love what you do and you walk your talk. That is exactly why we had you here for two times already, and why we have you here for a third time. And that we are so happy that Bilge is with us, and we would love to share what your experience, those experiences are.
Yes.
So I will shorten this up and show you two results, and then I will stop with this, and
Cool.
we'll talk about the next steps in the organization experience approach. So if you correlate culture and business success, and people had it to judge it by themselves. So what do you think are the costs higher? How high are the costs, quality, and time? Yeah. So you find a correlation 0.36. Okay, fine. What I want to show you is what if you, and this is the causal model we computed here. If you split this up and we measure employee experience by fulfilled human needs and the influence of this and the influence of culture, then it's a kind of regression you can do. Then you will find that the whole influence on the business results is coming from the employee experience. The culture is driving the employee experience, but the employee experience is important if you want to have good business results. And of course, you can create stupid culture measures, like give them a kicker or whatever. And is this culture, if your money is not paying off on improved employee experience, it does not work. So this is what this picture means. So you need to understand the needs, then you can create like culture measures. And this is something, the last one I want to show you. I mentioned performance, and that's why I want to focus on the third need from below, because we compared here. This is a picture. We compared again the people who experience a good culture, people who experience a bad culture, and how their need fulfillment is. And the statement, and this is kind of item how we measure need fulfillment and so employee experience is I can perform at my best. Very simple one. While working at Deutsche Telekom, I experienced that I can perform at my best. In German, ich kann meine beste Leistung bringen. And the difference here is 100%. Just to let you think about it. 100%. And if you add a bicycle, it will not change very much.
Yeah, I'm not going to work harder or be more loyal because I was given a t-shirt.
For instance. So we can discuss this for hours. What does it mean? But of course, it is related to our organization experience stuff. That's why I'm jumping and a little bit forward and want to show you this slide, which is important to understand what we did. It's a little bit complicated. Please don't be overwhelmed by this. I want to explain it to you. So this is what we are actually, what Detecon was doing during the last month to make it to the approach of organization experience. And you find the 6 dimensions, which we had in the beginning of organization experience here, degrees of freedom, competence, and so on. What can we do with this now to make it work in organizations? And first thing is we start measuring it the way that we get into a dialogue with the people and want to ask people's questions, and I show you some then later. And when we find interesting points, especially dimensions where people answer differently, this is an interesting approach. If you find some deviations in participants' answers, it's always a point where you say, oh, okay, let's have a look at it. Interesting. What is behind this? And we start discussions then. And according to these dimensions, we can then derive actions and then measure again. And I want to show you how this kind of measurement looks like. And this is a kind of maturity model, if you want to say so. I love the second one better more. So we have 2 questions regarding to degrees of freedom. The question here is, the organization defines the scope of actions for employees and supports independent actions in order to best support the KPI relevant to area of responsibility. So this is the dimension of degree of freedom, sub-dimension. And then we have some steps here. The first work mostly consists of adhering to processes and no arbitrary decisions. So you are totally bonded and you're a prisoner of the processes, you can do nothing. Then I would jump to level 3, because this is a little bit, I guess, where a lot of companies actually are. Smaller independent decision making is enabled. KPIs focus on speed and of resolution, if, for instance, regarding to service, also include numbers of attempts to resolution. So it's not in this, excuse me, second step, you are totally focused. Let's have a call center, for instance, and you're totally focused on a KPI like call handling time. Yeah. In the third step, you would have KPI system, which is including first resolution rate, for instance. And then you can go on. Decisions on their own initiative without approval from the manager, but the employees can do this. Qualitative processing of customer concerns is prioritized. And the next level would be, but I think no one is there actually, extensive freedom of action and innovative concepts. Employees make decisions on their own authority and so on. For instance, what I really, really love is you as a team are able to create your own KPIs that you want to be measured with. If you do this, then you have performance, you have engagement, because people totally align to what they have chosen freely as their targets, and you will see that they will not choose rubbish. So this is how we want to go on. And Bilge, I'm very sorry, but 12 minutes at least. So for you.
I stopped sharing, and
Yeah.
we promise that you will share with us the links where people can download the results from what you are allowed to share with us in the audience. And I'm bursting now out of curiosity, Bilge, as it's for me, it's logic such as, if I can get this in a system, people not only committed to a target, to a KPI, a
Yeah.
channel partner, an employee, that is so fantastic that they commit themselves to their own found targets, and now they would like to see how it is driven.
Yeah, I think this is actually the most interesting piece, because in the past, the way we have driven frameworks and rule sets were, we took a book, we took a assignment there, we took a SWOT analysis, we took the typical engagement, and it was brought from external sources into the companies, which they had to apply. Now we're at the stage where we actually create our own formula, our own rules, our own regressions, because every company has a different structure, and now we're able to really measure this. I think it's the first time we can really do that, and this is so exciting, because you can go beyond all the theoretical discussions we all had in our studies and really say, no, this works for my company. And I want to point out that the work Guido did, where it is actually groundbreaking, is that we go beyond the classic engagement surveys or pulse surveys, because we use open text answers to analyze what people are thinking, to get these, fields of interest and where we can improve. And what actually Guido and Detecon did with this is they go a layer softer, which is not in the books, by the way. There is not a framework out there. This is the first framework, which really goes into your needs. And this is why I love the work of Guido and Detecon, whereas Detecon just did, a quick assessment from a business perspective. But now you have really the point where you can say, guys, how happy are you to recommend this place to work to a friend? Who cares? I don't care. I'm not going to recommend my friend my company. No, none of my friends is in tech. But I can tell you what I think about you if you would like to hear about it. And this is the layer we're talking about. Now we're creating our own data. We're measurable. And this data is working. So Guido said something about a disconnect between how we think we are and how we're perceived. And this is what we call the experience gap. This is where all the magic happens, because all the top brands, they already have superb products, They're not discussing any product innovation. That is already there. Where the last piece and bit of competition can really take place is experience. How do I feel when I engage with you? How do you make me feel when I talk to you? And, if I go to, we can talk about top cars. If I go to a top German car dealer, how do you make me feel there? Do you make me feel good? And it takes just a couple of seconds that I change my mind now. And this is why experience economy, there's an entire industry out there, is there. And what I really see is when we combine EX and CX data, it is, first of all, we always talk about digital transformation, change management, and it's such, as Guido, I really found it so funny. And we create our tribes, and we did out of the KPIs, we did OKR. It is true. But what really means that you do transformation is that you take the people with you. And this is, for example, the biggest fail in transformational projects is the human component, because we are not able to take the humans with us. So what we do at Qualtrics is actually, yes, you have a great CX program, you have a great EX program, and let's measure that. So what we do is, first of all, we bring data together. So bring classic CX and EX data together and see how the data works together. I can give you some examples on that, what we figured through our customers who told us. The idea was, for example, when you look at telecommunications, if you have a field technician who is out there installing something, if this person is recognized for their good work, they're 9 times higher, more likely not to leave the company. This is a very key measure. When we look at people who feel actually in restaurant chains, when they feel supported and respected by their colleagues, the customer experience metric, which is actually how the food tastes, is better. So the customer experience is much higher. You get to these little things, and they just are in waves and they peak together. Wow. And there is so much more. Also, employees who are really empowered and feel good about and feel recognized. So feeling the recognition is really key. So going back to Guido's analysis, they are also more likely not to leave the site of the customer until the issue is fixed. Employees who feel trained and empowered, the customers are 4 times more likely to return because their problem was solved. There are so many soft little points in EX which fit together with CX that we need to look at them. And this will give us more guidance on how to create programs. Your bike example, do we need to give everyone electrical bikes or t-shirts? No. There are so much other things we really are triggered on as human beings, which are just so much more basic, which we all know, right? Be nice to each other, be kind to each other. And this is where it comes back to. But what I love is when we bring data together is that we create a new regression for a company. This is your company, and this is how your company works. But the point is that a lot of companies are a little bit hesitant, is you have to act on feedback. And this is, I think, what we also saw on your chart, Guido. If you do not act on feedback, that is the worst thing you can do. You cannot collect feedback and not act on it. So if we can face that, that is fantastic. And then we're talking all about transformation, AI and everything. But we all know, we all are in tech, and we know that the systems are not talking to each other, right? We create, CRMs, and we want to have it here and there, and we try to bring it together. And what Qualtrics actually does great is Qualtrics sees itself as a knowledge source. So we, can provide information to CRMs. So you don't need to log into Qualtrics to see how this customer felt in the last conversation. You will see it in your CRM system, in the system where you're at. So we also have to respect the sources of truth per department. And this is, I think, where technology comes really into play. Yes, we can collect the data, we can evaluate the data, but then you need to make it available to the people, to every single person. And this is the key part. And this is why also connecting experience data with CRM data is such an important factor, because, when we look at hyper-personalization, where we're at right now, hyper-personalization means also hyper data exchange within the companies. We cannot operate in these silos anymore. And we are, I think, right now in that process where a lot of companies are breaking that. But also what I see is not only that bringing more technology together, and I really see it like um, these connected networks. But on the other hand, what I see, and this is why I really, really support Guido's work, is that we have to get away from this typical HR questionnaires and just go a level deeper. What type of empowerment do I need? We talk so much about empowerment. I have to tell you, I don't know what really empowerment is. Empowerment is a feeling, and that changes for me every day, to be very clear. So we need also these more granular analysis of these needs.
Yeah.
So this is what Qualtrics actually does. So we provide the companies, and we just provide a technology. We provide them the engine to run all these different surveys, to run all the questions. And what we do also is that we connect data where you think it could not be connected. We try to find the connection for you. And Qualtrics, even though we are an experience management company, our saying is employees first. And I think this is a key takeaway for companies to look at. Making business more human.
And it helps me to get a bit into the statement of it's another way to put empathy into action, as what it is saying in your LinkedIn profile, as I'm a curious buddy, that you take empathy as a very important part in day-to-day life, and that the emotion, the empathy, and taking care of the employees for their well-being will pay back in their attitude towards customer, co-employers, co-colleagues, colleagues, and everybody in the environment. And so that we create that organizational experience.
Correct. And Qualtrics goes even a step beyond. We correlate this data to your operational data. This means to your revenue, to your costs, to everything, right? What the question would be, like one of the top CX, like the top CX companies, they can tell you how many millions 1 point of NPS mean to them. They can say
something I would like to dig in.
Yes.
How many companies are, from your perspective, top CX companies? Would you have a figure for us? Have you done some research on that?
There are a couple of researchers out there. We work with the XM Institute, which is now part of Qualtrics, so we have access to a lot of different researches. I don't find myself in the position to say this is a great CX company. But what I can tell you is our clients, which are the leaders of their industry, yes, they are top CX companies. And now with the improvement of AI, a lot of things will change in the next 1 or 2 years. But when we look at the Fortune 500 companies, you work with around 70% of them, and I can tell you they will be pretty easy to tell you what 1 point in change of the NPS means in US dollars. They know these numbers.
It is wow.
Yeah,
but as I am in Cologne with the Zoho team and we'll have dinner with them together, and on Zoholics it was largely and in depth discussed how important happy customers are, but also seeing that happy employees create the happy customers. It's one of my beloved statements: happy wife, happy life. Yeah, but you put it in the right approach and do the transformation. That is so important. And coming back to that, how can I afford such a measuring system? I would say you are between the Ferrari and the Rolls-Royce if I look to the price tag. So what are the steps before I get so sexy and so rich that I can afford that?
First of all, that's a wrong interpretation of Qualtrics. Qualtrics has different sizes that fit every company, so we support them from the beginning to the end. So that is fine. But I think how to start is really just to start. Just do a survey, just look at it, and just act upon it. And it is really just start doing it. There's so many tools out there. There is so much knowledge out there. There is so much work from Guido out there, which you can use, which is actually, unbelievable. Like what Guido did there, and the Detecon team, what Detecon did is a, I don't know, companies were paying man months of consultancy to get that such an assessment. But I would say just, first of all, know your customer journey. You should always know your customer journey. That is key. Know your customer journey and just start. Ask people. You will never get feedback. People will not, it's like dating. If you don't make the first step, you will always sit in the corner and wonder what happened if. So just start doing it.
Birgit, I just love your statement, and I am happy to virtually embrace you, because even that you are not a regular viewer of our show, you have taken the step at the top of the hour that we wrap it up with some call to action and the famous last words sentences in the direction of the call to action, such as your encouragement: just don't think too much, but start and go forward. Guido, on your end, what is your famous last sentence approach or the call to action?
So I'm very impressed by the story which turned out in the end. So it starts with the first step to date, and then you care for your wife, make her happy, and you will be happy. And so we have the systematic approach. I don't know who's the customer and who's the employee in this example, but it's a system of happiness.
It works.
Happiness as the key to success. That is something I love to go forward to. I enjoyed very much what you shared with us, as it is, as a matter of fact, we have also one show done with Natalie and Guido as a surprise guest, where we still didn't touch too much into facts and figures, and now we have the opportunity to go into facts and figures. Marshall, what's your feeling about all what we have heard?
Well, I would say that what we've heard this past hour agrees very well with my opinion that if you want happy customers, you need employees who feel like they're making a difference. There's no worse feeling in the world than having to tell someone, I'm sorry, I can't help you. When you give your employees the tools to make a difference in a customer's life, you have made them harder and better workers.
So, dear audience,
Helping is a human need.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess you would come with that one. Yeah, sure.
Well, we're social animals. We are programmed on the inside to work together and to work for one another.
Of course.
And anything that makes that easier, I support.
Yeah. Let's
I'm
remember
looking
this
forward
more often
to enjoying that conversation and encouraged to get you aboard again. We are looking forward to the links you can share with us, Guido, and I promise to put them into the comment fields. And for the audience, thank you for staying with us, those which are still with us. And I'm grateful that we go forward and we'll have another interesting CRM conversation, if I'm not mistaken, Marshall, on the 3rd of October. And then we try our very best from London. Well, I think that it is more or less a CRMKonvos on the move. So take care, everybody. We go backstage. And thank you for being with us and having a fantastic hour with us.